Yes, yes, you are. It is Monday, July 14th, 2025, and you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't like talking about it. And we're streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. Please let everybody know where we're at. If you wouldn't mind liking the stream, sharing it out there, giving me a follow on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Look, there is so much to get into. The stack of stuff, as we like to say, is large and voluminous. And today we're just going to control what we can control. Because if we get angry about everything that's going on right now, we're not going to be fruitful in life. We're not going to be productive. And I'm always sitting here trying to think about how should I handle certain situations, because I am blessed to have this microphone, and WYAB is just the truth beacon of light and hope in Mississippi. I could say something and it might not end up going the way I want it to. And it just keeps on coming back to this. Just those who guard their tongues and mouths keep themselves from calamity. So I'm going to try to let other people say what I'm thinking without getting myself into too much trouble. And I know Epstein is the big thing, but yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of President Trump being shot. And what do we know? What have we found out? This has only gone on for a year. If you listen to President Trump, he says he's satisfied. The news reports say that up to 6 agents have been suspended from anywhere from 10 days to 40 days with pay. So basically, you get a bad mark in your performance report, and you're getting 40 days suspension for potentially letting the next president of the United States, leader of the free world, meet his demise live on stage in front of the world. There are so many. It's almost like America. We know that something's wrong. We know that something's not right with our government, and the signs are there. It doesn't matter where you look, whether it's presidential politics, local politics, school board, hospitals, police departments, the stock market. And it's not necessarily one thing that's just so blatantly out there. It's so ostentatious that you just cannot ignore it. But there's so many small signs out there that just make you really wonder, what are they hiding? We know that the FBI and other law in other agencies inside the Department of Justice have the ability to crack into any cell phone and any email account, encrypted, non-encrypted, doesn't matter. They can go find out this stuff, and yet we don't know anything about the guy who tried to kill President Trump. It's just gone. They don't talk about that, but they'll talk about President Trump getting booed at a soccer game. And the boos, I didn't get to hear it, but from what I was told, the boos weren't like overpowering, but it was out there. It wasn't like when Trump goes to a football game or a baseball game and everybody just goes nuts and wildly supports him. And it does stink that Chelsea are the FIFA World Club champions for the next 4 years. They get a gold badge. That's terrible. But we're not here to talk about those losers. It just seems that this is being slowly swept away. The can kicked down the kick down the road. We'll talk about it later. We're going to suspend some people. We'll leak that out there. People won't get really too upset about it. And hey, we'll just continue to stretch this out until we have to absolutely tell the truth. It's very frustrating to me, quite frankly. I think we should have a lot more knowledge on what actually happened on President Trump that day. It's not like we're asking for too much, but let's talk about the big elephant in the room. And oh, by the way, the number if you want to be on the show today is 601-879-0002. The text line has already been blowing up. Lots of y'all sending me stuff about the Epstein situation. That number is 601-879-5060. And I appreciate all the texts. Some of the stuff, dudes, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit out there. I do try to track a lot of it down and validate what I can and invalidate what I can't, and then go with it. Some of the stuff, especially on the mRNA, be very careful what you're sending in Lincoln, because some of that stuff, you dig 2 levels deep and you find out that the source is not correct. And the one thing I don't want to do is use this platform to put out something that I later have to retract. Not because I don't mind making mistakes. We all make mistakes. To err is the human. But all of a sudden, it picks up steam, and now it's somewhere down the road that we don't want it to be. Let's see. Here we go. We're going to talk about that in the next hour. Let's talk about Epstein. And I've just got lots of sound. You know, Turning Point USA had their big event in Florida. No matter who the speaker was, with the exception of Tom Homan, who is leading ICE, who, if you haven't watched his speech, you probably should. It's got a lot of cuss words in it, but the guy is just real, and he connects. And it was a great speech. But everybody who was talking about Epstein, we want to know. And we're completely baffled by why this isn't coming out. And let's just go with cut one.
You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
And obviously, this is before the election, but I thought it was interesting because of the two people who are talking about it. Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk. We have been conditioned as Americans by what the news media has fed to us, what we have done in our own investigations, what we're finding out, what we're looking at. We've been conditioned to say that, hey, there's something out there that we need to see, that needs to come out. And our politicians, whether they've been on the left or the right, have said, you know, this needs to come out. Now, there have obviously been some politicians who have said, oh, yes, it needs to come out, and then done everything they can behind the scenes to make sure that it never sees the light of day. And that's just how politicians are. That's why they need to be refreshed and changed often. But it just seems to me that those of us in our political sphere who have the biggest impact in society, they all want to see this come out. Here is another very famous guy. Oh, hold on, that link didn't work. I apologize. Here is, well, we'll wait on that one. So with respect to Elon Musk and his comments on Epstein, if you've looked on him on X, he's been very vocal about it. He's almost been taunting the president with it. It's been one of those things where I do not understand the tension between Elon and President Trump, why they're antagonizing each other. It's frustrating because there's a history here. There's a history of Trump saying on one hand he wants the tapes to come out, and then on the other hand, a magical date in the sand goes by, and now, hey, we don't have to let the tapes out anymore. It's not a big deal. I can just tell you from the people who are talking to me, from the people who are talking to me, um, it they are not letting this go. They are not letting any of this go. They're talking about it. They keep on bringing it up, whether we're out at dinner on Saturday afternoon with friends, whether it's at church yesterday morning, whether it's emails in my inbox this morning. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Epstein. And there are people out there who are credentialed, who have been tracking this for a long, long time. And I'm not talking like Alex Jones or anybody like that. Not that that's not a bad source, but if I can find a source that is credible to both the the left and the right, I will always try to use them. And I will always try to highlight them because that way I'm bringing more people into the middle. And I can make that argument, and it ends up being a lot better for all of us. And when we get back, I know I'm gonna take a little bit early break, but I wanna make sure I got my sound levels right for my audio clips. We're gonna listen to Amy Rohrbach, and if you don't know who she was the ABC News anchor who 4 years ago was about ready to break the whole story on Epstein, and she got sat down and quietly let go, and, she's upset, and that audio is coming back now, and we're gonna play it right here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
She told me everything. She had pictures. She had
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the.
Bill.
Will that ever come out, do you think?
And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. The phone in number is 601-879-0002. The text line is 601-879-5060. They said that the sound low on that last piece of audio was a little low. I'm going to play it again. This is Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk before the election, but questioning the Epstein list.
You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
And, you know, there are liberals who want the Epstein list to come out, and there are conservatives who want the Epstein list to come out. There are religious people who want the Epstein list to come out, and there are atheists who want the Epstein list to come out. This is an issue that's like 95-5. There is a sick group of people out there who are just fine with what happened, but the majority of humanity thinks it's wrong to take advantage of kids, and that's what's going on here. Like we were talking about, though, before we're getting there, we had different groups of people who were really starting to question this. And this was sent to me. This audio clip was sent to me by one of my texters, and unknown texter, don't know who you are, but I thought it was relevant, so we're going to play it.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas.
And that is where I'm at. Look, I support President Trump. I'm wearing my hat. I am MAGA. But I think the base of MAGA, and you know, I'm just one guy. I talk to a lot of people, and they seem to trust me. But it just seems like MAGA does not want to let this go. And it's truly, I genuinely believe part of the reason Donald Trump won so convincingly in so many different places, got all the swing states, right? He got it all. The reason that he was able to do that was this Epstein issue. There were enough people in the middle of the road and those who leaned left, and I can say this personally, I've got well over 100 examples where I could go back and say, yep, this person's always voted Democrat, but they're voting for Trump. And one of the things they talked about was Epstein. And I know we can do a lot of different things to try to shift the thrust of Jeffrey Epstein client list and the cover up that's going on. You can use things like the Trump assassination, the World Cup, things that are going on in Texas. By the way, the recovery efforts down there were slowed down a little bit because of the weather, but they're going really well. It's unfortunate, and we will talk about that in the second hour because there's still a lot that needs to be said about the Texas flooding. But it doesn't matter what's going on in the world or in the United States. People are still going to come back to Epstein. And why the change of heart? Many people I know used to listen to Dan Bongino when he had his own podcast, and he was rocking and rolling, and he just walks out of the FBI and says, "I need to take a personal day." For anybody who knows Dan Bongino knows that he's not a wimp. He believes what he believes, and he backs it up. And all of this distraction coming out, Trump having to come out on Truth Social, Kash Patel potentially leaving the FBI. This has truly been the worst week from Monday to today, and probably for the next few weeks of Trump's presidency. And it's not anything that he did; it's what he didn't do. I know that some people in the culture are trying to call this a fumble. This is not a fumble. This isn't even a giant misstep. This will be something, unfortunately, that I think out of all the things that you could say about Donald J. Trump, this will be the asterisk. Unless he comes out and just completely blows the thing wide open, and in which case, everybody will say, "Yep, I knew that's what Trump was doing all the time. He plays 5D chess. He's always 3 steps ahead of everybody else." And that could be. I would not put that by him. But there's a lot of evidence out there. And if anybody watched the Turning Point USA conference this weekend, the highlights, or you actually went there were over 7,000 Americans under the age of 27 who were there. And listen to what they had to say about this issue. Listen to what they had to say about the whole handling of the Epstein files. They want it out. And they would cheer. I mean, you listen to Megyn Kelly when she was on stage, and they would do different types of ways to try to gauge the pulse of the audience. It's not even debatable. And I don't have this story in front of me, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, for everybody who is worried about the youth of America, and I am one of them, there are signs out there that they're pulling this together, despite the horrible upbringing Gen X and for early millennials gave to their kids. Young American men are considering themselves more spiritual, more religious than their parents. Young women are starting to feel that same way. And feminism is coming out saying that they have to destroy traditional marriage in order to keep the feminism movement going. They release all those things, and it still gets completely wiped out by what? Jeffrey Epstein. Here's another article or another piece of sound, and this is Amy Rohrbach, former ABC News anchor who ended up being pushed aside. And this is from 2020. 2020. They had the goods on Epstein, and ABC killed it. Who owns ABC? Disney.
She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all.
Wait, she said she tried for 3 years to get it on. So this would be actually 2017. This would be 2017. 2017, not 2017. That's incredible. What kind of work are they doing to try to keep this on the down low? It is the Streisand effect, right? The more you want it to go away, the less you talk about it, the bigger it grows. And I don't know, it's almost going to be like one of the Kennedy assassination, or the Martin Luther King assassination, where they just bury it for 70 years. And finally, when it does come out, nobody really cares. And there's an angle that I want to talk about too. And it's tough for me. I have to be truthful to you all, and say that it's tough for me. Not that I have undying loyal support for Israel, the country, the border, but the people, the concept, the idea. And when you start actually following these links 2 levels, 3 levels, 4 levels down, when I sit in my home office and just sit there and start going down the rabbit trail, I would be lying to you all if I said I don't have some questions about the Mossad and what part of or what involvement they have in all of this. You've got Alan Dershowitz, for crying out loud, saying he has information on this. He can't tell because they tried to come after him. He sued, got a plea deal, and agreed to shut up and wouldn't talk about it anymore. But he says he knows. He can't talk about it. Let's finish this clip up here real quick.
All coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal.
And I want to just give full credit to that clip. That's James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, now OMG Media, O'Keefe Media Group. There are people out there who know. Like if I was this chick, I'd be looking for Secret Service protection, go deep underground because if she ever gets a chance to tell her side of the story, and I don't know why she wouldn't want to go out there and talk about that side of the story, but it makes me wonder too, this lady who's done all this work, she's got the goods. You telling me she doesn't have a thumb drive somewhere with all of her work there? Is she so worried that someone's going to sue her? Is she worried she's going to get killed? Someone going to take her out? There is just it's so fascinating, and it's completely taken over the American culture right now. No matter where you turn, whether your neighbors are political or apolitical, whether they're left or right, everybody's got an idea on this, and it's just this big, giant story that's not going to leave the room anytime soon. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on.
And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, streaming on Rumble, streaming on X, streaming on YouTube, that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't like saying it. And of course, at WYAB.com. This is the last segment I really want to spend on Epstein for any time soon, unless something so earth-shattering breaks that we have to talk about it. AI and what people are doing with AI and the meme culture. For meme culture, it's taking a picture or a segment and turning it into something that it's not, or making fun of a situation. It's absolutely brutal. Everybody has seen the 11 plus hours of the door that Jeffrey Epstein was held in. That wasn't his actual cell. That was the hallway that went to his cell. And they've used AI in such a way that they've got Bill and Hillary Clinton walking out of the door. They've got Bill Gates walking out of the door. They've got all sorts of other people walking out of the door. They've got Trump walking out of the door. I mean, it's almost like looking at pictures anymore on X or on any social media platform. It's like, is this really real or not? It's that, unfortunately, AI has gotten that good that you can't even know for sure if what you're watching and seeing is real. And it's only going to get better. When the new Gronk and the new Chat GPT come out, I think that's really, and I know that the new Grok just came out, 4.0 just came out, but when the new one comes out, oh my goodness, Grok 5, it's going to be able to make 2-hour movies with a snap of a finger. And it's going to definitely change the way we think. But getting back to Epstein, there are a lot of people out there who are, and the text line is just blowing up. I want to read this one text from Brother Rick. He always has good stuff to say. I have to listen to people say that the list is so deep that the government would just collapse. May justice be divine, even if the heavens fall, burn it all to the ground. And there are a lot of people who feel like you, Rick. You know, people, especially in this case, again, I think that the major driving factor with Epstein is that it involves kids. And you know what? I have been elected arguing against a side that normally people wouldn't agree with me on. But as soon as we started talking about the kids, the whole other side would come to my side and we would win that debate. Because people do not like seeing children being taken advantage of. It's grotesque. It's morbid. Dare I say it's evil. And it goes against the very human conscience that each one of us has been endowed with by our Creator. And I know some of you guys who are atheists out there or non-religious say, Andy, don't go that way. But it's true. God puts it in you. You don't have to agree with it. You agree with that. But that's just the way it is. And that's why people are so upset. So until there's justice there, I just think this is going to go on. And, you know, it's endless content. You can sit there and doom scroll on X. You can doom scroll on that social media platform that begins with an F, but I don't like talking about it, and read all sorts of just gloom and doom. But that's not healthy. And like my daughter says, Dad, sometimes you just need to go out there and touch grass. And so with that, I'm done with it. If something else big changes, I'm sure my texters will let me know. People will let me know. But I want to kind of switch gears and talk about some good stuff that's happening. And oh my gosh, 2 times in 1 month, I've got to say something about Lynn Fitch. 2 times. And I'm getting this from Brother Kingfish and Jackson Jambalaya. Mississippi gets over $6 million in opioid settlement. Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced a $720 million nationwide settlement with 8 drug makers. Mississippi could receive up to $6.35 million in total. Kingfish, I like how you put the figure and then put million after it. That's pretty good. And I'm kind of indifferent to the whole opioid. I'm not going to call it a crisis, but the way that this has been thrust upon us. I'm not saying that opiates are necessarily a great thing for somebody to be on, but I think that this is something that the drug companies, Pfizer, whether Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, they did it to us with COVID. They did it to us with opiates. And now we're sitting here trying to say that we're tough on the pharmaceutical companies. But there was a line in this article that I really want people to kind of sit down and listen to for a second here. And this is all one sentence. It's kind of a long sentence, but when you hear it, it's going to make you go, holy cow. Additionally, 7 of the companies, not including Indivior, are prohibited from promoting or marketing opioids and opiate products, making or selling any product that contains more than 40 milligrams of oxycodone per pill. So when I have my wisdom teeth pulled, or when I lose tooth, or when I have my knee rebuilt, I was given a 5 milligram pill of oxycodone. I was knocked on my butt. I was done. I was out for 8 to 10 hours. Didn't want to move, didn't want to do anything. Everything was fine. And 5 milligrams, that's huge. And it is my understanding that oxycodone is a different type of opiate from hydrocodone in that it attacks different, or it manipulates different sensors in the brain. So it is considered a more powerful. And then there's things above that, like Percocets and all that craziness. And forgive me for not knowing my opiate pills that much. I just know that when there is a pill out there, I mean, I'm gonna call my doctor who treats my back and my Parkinson's and say, is there really a 40 milligram oxycodone pill? Man, that would put down a horse. 40 milligrams. My goodness gracious. The Mississippi Attorney General's office was the first state in the country to file suit against the opiate manufacturers for their part in the epidemic. Since then, the Attorney General has successfully negotiated settlement agreements with over a dozen manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, retail pharmacies, and marketers of opiates. Attorney General Finch chairs the Opiate Settlement Fund Council to ensure settlement agreements are allocated and spent in accordance with the terms of the agreement itself, including allocation requirements to ensure public involvement, accountability, and transparency. Posted by Kingfish, 3/19 yesterday. And like I tell all of the people on this program, and I know I have lots of people listen up in Lafayette County and up north, and I know they're not fans, but we have to maintain our intellectual honesty that when somebody gets it right, we talk about it. People are saying that's a typo, that can't be 40. Look, I'm go to here. I'm going to actually tweet Kingfish's story so that for those of you who are thinking that I'm somehow just making this all up, that's not me. I don't do that. I'll at least point you to where I got that. Let's talk about something else really great in Mississippi, because we're bragging on Mississippi. Mississippi is 4th in the nation for personal income growth. That is just awesome. Only 4 states are gaining income quicker than Mississippi. Well, actually, only 3 states. Governor Tate Reeves is doing something right. And I don't know if it's because of all this big investment coming in with the Amazon distribution center, the data center that's going to be doing all the AI, whether that's the new energy infrastructure that's coming in to do that. But we're actually growing. And really other good news about Mississippi that isn't talked about, but you know the best state to retire in the United States is? It's not Florida. It's actually Mississippi. Your dollar goes farther. So for all the negative stuff you want to say about Mississippi, all the tough stuff that you want to complain about, we got it really good here. I know I'm born a Yankee, Southern by the grace of God. I don't want to bring any of that Yankee nastiness down here. But I'll tell you what, all you Yankees up north who are complaining about Illinois, complaining about Minnesota, complaining about Michigan, bring your conservative politics down here, and the way of life is just better. The food's better, the people are better, the culture's better. And I genuinely believe this in my heart of hearts. People do not realize how well we have it here in Mississippi. We got it so good. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. No, 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 no. I will not let you down. If I have to fall on the sword and admit I make a mistake, I'll do that. My buddy Lee was just telling me he's a home inspector out there, and how he's doing these home inspections for all these people moving from the north down to Mississippi, and they're like, Mississippi isn't at all what I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, yes, because Mississippi is really that awesome. And so when I have friends out there, reaffirming what I'm seeing and reading, it's always great. Lee, I'm glad you're out there listening. We've got more good news, and again, it's coming out of a place that I would not have necessarily expected it to come out of. But when it comes out, we got to talk about it. And this is Madison County School District. Who would have thunk it? The Madison County School District announced changes to the student electronics policy for the upcoming 25-26 school year. According to the new policy, all students will be prohibited from using headphones and earbuds during school hours. There will be limited cell phone use for middle and high school students. I think this is great. These anxiety devices, we need to take them out of the hands of our kids. It's doing no good. We've all seen and have our own personal examples of kids who are just more and more addicted to their iPads, their cell phones, their electrical devices. I mean, that poor kid that I saw at Kroger, he's famous now in the greater Hinds County area. Couldn't answer his mom without asking his cell phone first. And what was even more crazy is that his mom waited for him to answer. The pull quote from here is from the superintendent of Madison County Schools, Ted Poor. The statistics are staggering when we took a hard look at the direct correlation between increased screen time and increased mental health issues. I'll tell you where it's bad for girls is that Insta. Girls want to look pretty, want to be told they're pretty. Those filters and the stuff that they do. I mean, I watch it. My daughter tells me about it. And the fact that we finally are seeing school districts start to take and acknowledge and start to take action on things like this, I think this bodes well for starting to get this under control. There's still a long way to go, and it might already be too late with how fast certain things are happening outside of cell phones with respect to AI. But the fact that we've got at least school districts starting to look at this now, and the school that my daughter goes to, cell phones are completely banned from when the school bell rings to start the school day till the school bell ends, not even at lunch. Well, what if something bad happens at school? Well, if that's not for the iPhone to do anything with. There's no reason for our kids to be sitting there doing that. All it does is take their attention away from focusing on their teacher and their studies and just sitting there looking at their screens. In the next hour, we're going to get caught up to date with other big topics going around the United States. There's some good stuff out there that I think warrants our discussion. President Trump about ready to drop the tariff bomb on Russia. I think that's interesting. The other part about this is Trump said we weren't sending any more weapons to Ukraine, but all of a sudden now it looks like they're getting some Patriot missiles, PAC-3s. Those are some pretty decent interceptor missiles. Not going to lie, we depended on them a lot when we were over in Afghanistan and Iraq. They're a good thing. Look, things are changing day by day. Everything that we thought we're going to get, we're kind of being let down a little bit. I get it. But we'll talk about it here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll see you in 8 minutes. Yes, you are. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, streaming on Rumble, streaming on X, streaming on YouTube, streaming on that social media platform that begins with the F, but we don't like saying the word because we don't like Zuckerberg. And we are streaming at the mothership, WYAB.com. Today is Monday, July 14th, 2025. And the tongue has the power of life and death. Those who love it will eat of its fruit. And there are a lot of people out there talking a lot of trash one way or the other on this Epstein issue. I'm really over it, but it just seems like everybody wants to talk about. I want to talk about what's going on with President Biden and the massive pardons that he gave on his way out the door, and how they are being able to tell which ones are auto-penned and which ones he actually signed. This is coming from the New York Times. Biden says he made the clemency decisions that were recorded with auto-pen. And I think this is a really big deal that needs more focus and attention on, because I think this goes back to a lot of things that happened during the Obama administration, by the deep state during President Trump's first term and during the Biden administration. And pardons, are given to the executive through the Constitution. It's a very straightforward provision in the Constitution. And that's not to say that this would be the first time a pardon has ever been abused. I'm sure if we dug deep enough, if we dug hard enough, we would find all sorts of examples where people have used their personal station, their access to the president, to get themselves out of some trouble that everybody else would never even have the opportunity to do. The Senate is starting to hold hearings on this. And quite frankly, I think it's a great thing. I'm sure that with the attention spans that America has today, where they're just getting bombed with so much information, whether that be through their social media, whether it be through their online stuff, whether it be through their email, whether it be chatting with their friends, there's just so much going on out there that the world is moving so fast that things are going by that simply just can't catch. It's like life today, like my buddy out there, Jim, who's out there, blue collar construction worker, pouring on a cement pad. He's like, dude, this is awesome. So much going on. Didn't even know half the stuff. So he makes it a point every day to make sure he tunes in and listens to WYAB all day. But that's just the situation we're in, that there's so much going on that unless we actually catch something in the act and glam onto it, it's just going to zoom right by. It's not an unfair argument to make to those, so my Democratic friends and those on the left, to say that in the last year of President Biden's presidency, he had mental acuity issues at a minimum. There are videos out there of him walking off the stage the wrong way, walking around the White House grounds the wrong way. There is tons and tons of audio, which I didn't even think to pull up and have ready, but maybe I'll pull it up during the break just to get some of this stuff. And now we're finding out that there are hundreds and hundreds of pardons that the president could make just by the stroke of a pen. But did he really understand what he was doing? Did he really understand who he was pardoning and why? I mean, we found out now that President Biden has bone cancer. I don't wish cancer on anybody. It's painful. It sucks. How much in the loop, so to speak, was President Biden when all of these pardons come out? And remember, a lot of these pardons were coming down from after he met with President Trump at the White House to drive to the inauguration. And I'm not sure there is a mechanism in place in the Constitution that says this pardon is now rescinded because the president wasn't in the right frame of mind when he was making it. I don't know how you make that argument. And Sean's a lawyer. Maybe he'll talk about that in the next hour with the Sean and Lindsay show, Crossing the Aisle. I think it's worth going after and looking at. But my goodness. And Republicans, of course, are having a heyday with this. And the Democrats are like, this is a constitutional provision provided to the executive, the president, and we shouldn't even be talking about it. Republicans tried to call the former White House doctor to Joe Biden to the stand, and he pleaded the Fifth Amendment, which, if you think about it, isn't that one of your doctor, you have confidentiality with your doctor, your spouse, and your clergy, right? So why would you even do that unless you just wanted someone to take the Fifth Amendment to make them look silly? There's got to be some type of smoking gun out there, some type of email communication or text communication between somebody other than President Biden, because let's be honest, Democrats, you don't see President Biden sitting there texting anybody. You don't see Trump for that matter either. I don't believe Trump has or he probably does have a phone because he tweets and truths, but I don't see President Biden as one who is actively on his iPhone or his Android going out there telling people what he was thinking, or people asking him for a favor. Maybe Jill Biden, maybe his chief of staff, but then again, that would all be protected too. It just seems to me like we've been talking about all these crazy distractions being fed upon not just America at this point, the world, whether it be the flood, fires, weather, Epstein list. What else is being covered up? And dang it, I didn't want to even talk about this, but just got texted to me. And I don't even go to this website. You know, someone's going to make like a lot of money and a lot of clout, if nothing else, about all these Republicans who wanted to get the Epstein list out. Sorry, but unknown texter texted us in, just said, go to the front page of Drudge. And I don't go to Drudge because I think that's garbage. But big red letters, Republicans block Ghislaine Maxwell testimony. What is Trump hiding? This is, man, I'm just telling you, this is going to take the Republicans down a bad road, especially if the Democrats are smart enough to figure out how they can politicize this to make the Republicans look like hypocrites. No one wants to be a hypocrite, but if you are on the conservative side, we're certainly looking like a hypocrite now. Thanks, Texter. I wasn't going back there. I'm going back to the pardons. There are over 150 pardons that are in question. And they can't necessarily find any proof to where it was even discussed in the Oval Office about that pardon. Chief of Staff didn't know about it. President Biden obviously didn't know about it. They just showed up. And I wonder if there's a money trail with that. We know that Hunter made a lot of money off the Ukraine, the laptop from hell. I mean, these are all certifiable facts. We're not doing that. So it's just the natural progression of things. And it makes a lot of people wonder, you know, does the pardon feature need to be looked at? Do we need a constitutional amendment for the pardon? Do we have to say that in order to have a pardon, you can't be auto-penned? Granted, you can't go back and get rid of this. Or if you can, there's some legal maneuver that I'm not aware of. And let's be honest, back in 1776, back in 1860, the president might have had to sign 10 or 15 documents in a day. In today's society, president is stamping his signature to all sorts of things, not just legislation and important government documents, fundraising letters, thank you notes. There's no way that Donald Trump signs everything. Everybody's like, Andy, did he sign your hat? Yes, he signed my hat. And I proudly wear it. I support President Trump. I'm just completely baffled by everything that's going on right now. It doesn't make sense. If you go to the article that the New York Times points out, they actually have pictures of the auto pen and what's an auto pen and how it's changed. And they have different uses for different types of documents that he was signing. It really goes into depth. But one thing Mr. Biden's White House counsel did say is that President Biden made the final decision, and the White House counsel is saying that President Biden did approve all of these pardons. And I mean, what can you do after that unless you have some type of video, audio proof? This is going to stand, and it's a sad day for America. I mean, some things, if you're an anti-death penalty person, you might be happy. He turned 37 of the 40 federal inmates on death row to life without parole. If you're for that, that's okay. But there were a lot of questionable people who were looking at a very tough road ahead in court that are going to have life a lot easier. And some people who deserve to have additional scrutiny, like General Milley, who oversaw the dreadful withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's somebody who needs to be looked at and should answer for his absolutely horrible planning. Who admitted to talking to the Chinese on the bat phone during the transition, saying that the United States wasn't going to do anything silly. This is all admitted. He's clear and free now. It's a shame. But that's the kind of stuff that I think really picks at our Constitution, at the office of the President of the United States. When we have things like this, we know they're wrong, but we can't go back and do anything about it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Brought up to me during the break, we can't forget about the pardon of our very own Congressman Benny Thompson, 2nd Congressional District, Mississippi, great state of Mississippi. And actually, I had this in the stack of stuff, but didn't even realize to bring it up in the last segment. But Magnolia Tribune, Frank Corder, today, the case of Congressman Benny Thompson's presidential pardon. Whole article that goes into much more detail just on Congressman Thompson's case, not necessarily all the other ones. And it's just funny to me how everything is trying to distract us from focusing on any one thing, because these are all really big stories, right? Whether you believe in the flooding or the Epstein thing or the pardons or the NATO summit, how they're now planning to put these tariffs on Russia 100% within 50 days. We're going to send more weapons to Ukraine. It's almost like there's just so much coming at us. And where do we sit down? Do we sit and we focus on? I think that's part of the reason that we have WYB, different radio hosts focus on different things. For me personally, I'm naturally attracted to the military side of stuff, being a veteran. I'm naturally attracted to the DC stuff because I worked there. But they're going in hard on Benny. And apparently there is no direct correlation between pardoning Congressman Thompson and Joe Biden. There's an email out there where a staffer authorized the use, but there's no authorized usage by President Biden himself. That's a whole nother ball of wax. That's a whole kettle of fish right there. That's going to have to be somebody who can go through that line by line, detail by detail. And I'm glad who would have thought that the New York Times would actually break a story like that? I certainly wouldn't have. Of course, Benny Thompson says that we've been pardoned today, not for breaking the law, but upholding it. Well, if you're upholding the law, why would you need a pardon? I still don't understand how, and I hope to, by the way, not this week, but next week, have a J6er on the radio program. We've been texting back and forth. I always like bringing people on the program like that to tell their side of the story of J6, what they saw. I let them have the floor, the microphone. I ask a few questions here and there, but I let them talk because that's their story to tell, not mine. And we need to make sure that those voices and those stories are never silenced. Some of those people spent years in jail against their habeas corpus rights. But here we have a congressman who gets pardoned for upholding the law. That's the antithesis of what the pardon is meant to do in the first place. It makes no sense. According to President Trump, Meet the Press, he told Meet the Press that Benny Thompson and Congressman Liz Cheney should go to jail for their role in the House Select Committee. I don't know if well, actually, destruction of government property and getting rid of all the January 6th hearings. Remember how they tried to put that on the main at 7:00 at night in prime time to have more people try to pay attention to the hearings, but no one really wanted to pay attention to the hearings because it wasn't anything to do with in the first place. No one wanted that. What if we put Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony in front of Congress at 7:00 on the major networks? What would happen then? I'm just saying. It's funny because the more I try to run away from that story, the more and more my phone is blowing up and people are saying, no, that's what we want to know about. I mean, what's there really to talk about? Epstein was found dead in his cell. There's no conclusive proof that he killed himself. You have the the United States top body inspector. The name escapes me now. But when they do a post-examination on the human body. He says it was not a suicide. And you have all the top conservative investigative journalists saying something stinks. And you had all the liberal investigative journalists saying, no, everything's fine. And now they're flip-flopping. Well, they're not really flip-flopping. The politicians are flip-flopping, but now the liberals are starting to meet in the middle. It's just ugly. For me personally, I would like to have some more proof on these pardons, not just for Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney and Mark Milley and the liberals that Biden did, but in the future, everything that President Trump does and the president's going forward. I have a hard time believing that Trump won't personally be able to hold down his own on the people that he pardons. It seems like a lot of the pardons are done on the way out the door when they know they're not running again and they don't have to pay a political cost for it. But that's just another example of why there's such low trust in our government right now. And we all feel it out there. And it's not even like, remember how we always talk about mockery, ridicule, and scorn, how the media and our political adversaries try to use those things against us. It's not even, you can't even use those things anymore when you talk about something like the deep state or even like weather manipulation now. It doesn't have that same mocking. It's almost like being called a fascist or a racist anymore. You were called a fascist or a racist back in 1980 or 90. You were mortified. Now it's like everybody gets called a fascist and a racist. What's your point? But you look at with the weather that we're having, it was incredible. There were like 9 cities that had severe weather events over that weekend. Nothing like the weather that happened in Texas, the flooding, but it was still pretty bad. Which brings me to a point that I wanted to bring up. And I have not heard this talked about on any mainstream media news source or in print or in type out over the internet. And that is, where were the weather radios? How many of those people actually had a weather radio? We already knew that the cell phone towers weren't able to put out the weather warnings that the National Weather Service and other associated agencies were putting out all night long. We've already debunked the fact that people weren't doing their job. We've gotten over that. We're at the point where we want to know why those people didn't get their alerts. We do know that the county didn't want to put in the flood warning sirens because it was too expensive, and that they did have some concerns from some of the people in those counties that said they didn't want to have the sirens go off unexpectedly or in a wrong situation, that they could be a false flag. But that's why I put out last week, and I put out again, public service announcement. If you don't have a weather radio, you probably should. They're not expensive. They're like $35, $36. But that all of a sudden, as quick as it went up, it's gone. We're still recovering people. That will take some time. But in the end, unfortunately, it just seems like in our society, the more and more that happens, the less time we get to actually try to stop and fix things. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I've got two stories for this segment that I want to talk to you about. One of them is kind of good news, and one of them is really sad, but really alarming at the same time. And I guess we'll start with the alarming, sad one. A lot of people haven't talked about it, but there are two dead yesterday after a guy went to a church and shot it up. What was really scary to me, and if you go to my X timeline, you can see the picture of this guy. Just absolutely tragic. People going to church to worship God. They're not bothering anybody, but these people are so unhinged. They're so off their rocker that they feel that they've got to go in there and share their pain, I guess. And if you look at a picture, he's a pro-Palestinian guy. He's got the neck gear on, the head gear on, and I'm reading this is from CNN. Two women were killed in the shooting Sunday at the Richmond Road Baptist Church in Lexington after a man who shot a state trooper, bonus, at the city airport, officials said. Two men were also injured at the church. Didn't get to see if they actually identified who the actual shooter was. I didn't see his name anywhere. But this just goes to show you that even when you're going to pray, man, or when you're out in town, you better be caring. Not because you want to go out and be the hero, but be able to defend yourself. Because you never know when it's going to happen. And it's just happening more and more. It was just shocking to me that this guy was pro-Palestinian and some of the pictures that they left. Can't find his name for some reason. Nope, it's not popping up. His name was in the story, but it's been removed, which is unfortunate. But again, a 72-year-old lady and a 36-year-old wife lost way too soon due to this violence, and that was in Kentucky. The other story that is somewhat kind of closing the loop on the deep state is that the Justice Department continues to purge J6 prosecutors, and this is coming from CBS. The ongoing purge of the Justice Department officials who investigated President Trump and his allies continued this week, with the Justice Department firing more than 20 more employees who worked on the investigations. And this is all with disgraced special counsel Jack Smith's classified documents case. And I just want everybody to remember there were pictures that all the mainstream media talked about where they put pictures of classified. They had the confidential, the secret, the top secret, all these pictures. Those were all staged by the FBI. That's been conclusively proven. And you still have dozens of these people inside the DOJ working. And then we wonder why Pam Bondi is having the time that she's having. And I'm not making any excuses for Pam Bondi. She's made that bed. She's going to sleep in it. But there are all sorts of people embedded in all the different departments of the government who want to see this go down. And the story goes on to say that there could be up to 15 more people just in this case itself. And I didn't realize this, but maybe you did. They called it the Weaponization Working Group. I mean, what were they thinking? Perhaps they just thought we were going so far down a road that they didn't have to worry about covering their tracks. They didn't have to worry about what they called themselves. But this just goes to show you, all of you who are upset at what's going on inside our government, I'd say stay upset peacefully. Everybody says that Trump supporters are mind-numbed robots and that they just support him no matter what. I can tell you that by the lack of phone calls, number one, but by number two, the increase in texting to the line saying how upset people are. That doesn't bode well for the Republicans coming up in 2026. Bannon's War Room said that Republicans could actually lose seats in the House because of what's going on. And if we would have brought that up 3 weeks ago, we would have said you were crazy. We would have said you're nuts. But the truth of the matter is, it's just all seems to be going back to this one issue, this one story. No matter how many other pieces of information, how many other news stories I can find to say, hey, look, we're doing good. It's just not what's driving the attention of MAGA. I mean, you look at what the things that Tucker Carlson are saying or Charlie Kirk are saying. You know, they're trying to provide. It's funny. It's almost like they're trying to say, "Look, Mr. President, please don't take this route. Look at and like showing peaceful ways for him to extricate himself from this situation." And unfortunately, it's just with every step they take, they are making those who would normally be considered on the fringe of society out there looking more and more normal. Do you think that at the beginning of President Trump's term, if Ghislaine Maxwell wanted to go testify in front of Congress, the Republicans would have blocked it? Would you have taken that bet? Something is just not making sense here. There's like a entire deep disconnect. As the Justice Department began collecting information about the FBI agents who worked on January 6th investigations and fired career prosecutors who worked on the cases, Bondi said in her directive that the working group would investigate improper investigative tactics and unethical prosecutions versus good faith actions by federal employees who simply following orders. That makes me feel a whole lot better. Does it make you feel better? Because quite honestly, like so many of you are saying, unknown texter, I've lost complete faith in DOJ. How do you bring that person back into the fold? What I mean, what could make Americans regain trust in the Department of Justice, the FBI, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF, Secret Service? We talked about that in the first hour. A year ago anniversary, 10 or 6 or 10 Secret Service agents got suspended and not fired, retraining. I wonder what happened to that woman. Remember, she pulled out her weapon and she couldn't holster it again? There were like slow motion memes and GIFs and videos on that. Was she one of the ones suspended? I don't know. But it just seems like nothing is happening that we would think should be happening. It's disappointing, but we live in the greatest state, and we're doing all right here in Mississippi. We got to continue to look out for each other's back. You're listening to the Andrew Gossett Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm going to take an early break. And when I get back, I got to talk about the awesome weekend I had, something much more uplifting. I don't want to end the show on a down note, but my goodness, just the news out there just keeps on going down, down, down. We'll be right back on the Andrew Gossett Show. And it is the last segment of the Andrew Gosser Show on Monday, 14 July 2025. One of the stories I didn't get to because it didn't really fit in how I wanted it to fit in, but I thought it was important. It's coming from Mississippi Today, and it's talking about the big, beautiful bill and how Medicaid expansion is Medicaid is being cut to illegals, but we can still expand Medicaid here in Mississippi. And, and I'm just here to tell everybody right now that you do not want to do that. As someone who watched Medicaid expansion happen in Illinois, it absolutely crushed and destroyed the medical system, the hospital system in Illinois. And I truly understand and experience the pain of trying to get to a doctor when you're sick and you need help and you've got a long wait. But when you start putting the snake oil, which is Medicare and Medicaid, and it's not doing what it's advertised to do, it ends up actually hurting the system. One of the best ways we can do that is to lessen the amount of people who are on that system. How do you do that? By going after the illegal aliens who are here taking advantage of that system right now. And I think it's a very fair topic for when I see left-leaning news outlets like Mississippi Today talk about, hey, how do we expand healthcare? I think that's a valid argument to have. But if you just sit there and say you're going to take this Medicaid money on the front end, and then after so long that money goes away, and now you're left holding the bill, that's going to end up causing just a worse disaster than we originally planned to have in the first place. And I think it's worth the argument of reading the bill. It's by Bobby Harrison, and I normally don't always. Well, I would say 99% of the time I don't agree with what's in there, but every once in a while I find a gem out there that makes you think, and that's what we do here on the Andrew Gosser Show. Just got a text from my man Jameson Haygood telling me about the show. Thank you, brother Jameson. It's good to know that you're still out there listening. You're welcome in anytime. It's big shoes to fill, Jameson Haygood. Let me tell you right now, it's not anything that I take for granted. But the last thing I want to talk about is this weekend. I haven't really bragged on the Sweet Bee a lot, but this weekend we had an awesome date night. And one of the things that is so wonderful about Mississippi is that the type of food you can go out and get. I mean, if you want seafood, you got great seafood. Drive down to the coast, bam. If you want barbecue, my goodness, great barbecue. Burgers, two of the best burger places in all of Mississippi are here at Stamps Burger and Foundation Burger. I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of those. But my friends, we all decided we were going to go out, and they wanted to go to try Indian food. And fellas, ladies, just let me tell you, I am not one for Indian food. I think it's okay, but it's something that is not on the top of my list. In fact, I probably haven't had authentic Indian food maybe 15, 16 years, legitimately. But we went to this place called Indian Delight. And my goodness, number one, hanging out with friends is always great. Fellowship is important, whether you're fellowshipping with your friends or your church family. It's just we're communal people. We want to hang out. We want to put down our anxiety devices and just put them away and not even think about them anymore and hang out. But man almighty, this guy, he made some of this butter chicken, and I have to tell you, it was so smooth and silky and saucy and delicious. And of course, Bernadette and I, we had a great time. We had our friends Shane and Carlin there, and Mike was there, and we just had a great time. Our daughter was there, and I'm just telling you, those are the moments that no matter what's going on in the world, no matter how crazy your X feed gets or your other social media du jour, Instagram, whatever, you have to step back and just unplug and go out, not necessarily even do something that you normally like doing that you always take part of, but go try something new. Because I'm just telling you right now, me going to an Indian restaurant is something that was not on my bingo card for 2025, let alone the 2020 decade, the 2020 the whole decade. I just nope. But this Indian delight place, and it was great. I got to meet the guy who cooks there. He's been here. He's legal, which is great. And just got to meet somebody that I would have never met before. And the cool thing is we're going to bring him some of our lamb, and he's going to prepare some of that we grow there on our farm and try that, which is interesting to me because and I realize this is more about me talking about my weekend and how awesome it was being with my family and everything. But I hope you guys have the same types of stories where you out with your wife, with your husband, doing something that perhaps you didn't do before in the past. Share it with your kids, and to do something like that. The sweet bee, she always likes adventure, something new. And that's not to say we don't do something new. Just the Indian food thing was kind of different. So, yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. I will actually go back and try it again. Didn't get the super nuclear hot spice texter calling in and saying, "Did you get the hot?" No, I did not go full crazy. Although I wouldn't mind trying it. And the thing about it is the sweet bee. Now that girl can handle spice. I mean, she can go ahead and handle the ghost peppers, Carolina Reapers, the Thai chilies, all that, no problem. Me, on the other hand, I love the spice, and my tongue and mouth can handle it, but my stomach, that's a whole nother story for another show on another time. But definitely one of those things, and it's just one of those things where sometimes we get stuck in these ruts and we don't get these ideas, and we just keep going down the same road and same path. And I'm just encouraging you all to get out of your comfort zone, get out of your lanes, and go try something different. Look, we'll be back in about another 22 hours to do it all again. Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Peace. Good deal.